My dogs are very like cuddly animals, but you got 2 security alarms.
Shout out Trooper and Baxter.
That's your dogs?
Yeah.
Trooper and Baxter? I
and
have
Baxter.
Goose and Maverick. Yeah.
Come on.
I know.
Come on.
I got to name them.
That's so clearly. Shocking. Your wife didn't name the dogs
She loves
Goose and Maverick?
She loves the movie Top Gun. I don't think she ever would have thought to name them Goose and Maverick. But,
It's really good.
And I can't have a third dog, but if I ever had a third dog, 1,000% I'm going to name him Iceman.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe the next dog's name is Iceman.
I can't tell you how much I love this topic right now for dog names. That's really good.
I know. It's hard to change lanes.
Oh, that's really good. God darn it. That's really great.
Yeah.
Iceman.
Hopefully we'll keep that part in it.
And then you can always go to the dog. No, you can be my wingman.
Yeah.
Any day. No, you can be mine.
Imagine I know my neighbors. I'm good friends with my neighbors that live in our immediate circle.
But
imagine if you didn't know me and you're some neighbor that's just walking by, but you live 3 streets over, and you just hear Goose, Maverick,
Iceman
in the house. Yeah. And they're like, what's this guy yelling about? This guy must really love Top Gun. He watches it every night, Yeah.
That's amazing. All right, let's do this.
All right.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Enthusiastic Life Podcast. I'm Brendan Walsh, and with me is producer extraordinaire
Ryan DeWan.
What up, Ryan? I like when you get the
What's
Nux. I like the episode Nux.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
I noticed it at the end of the one we did, and I was like, it's a solid way to have an episode. Yeah.
I like it. Welcome to our most recent episode. With us this week is Erik Meier. Now, Erik holds a place of prominence in this episode because it's the first one that Ryan knew before he actually came in. So kind of fun that way.
Yeah, we had some preconceived, ideas for how this episode was going to go.
Erik is the CEO of Sandler Training and EAM Consulting Group in Troy, Michigan. And he's a great guy. He's really smart. You'll notice so I always am fascinated to listen to Erik because he is quiet when he speaks. And I always find that it's actually one of my favorite books, Quiet by Susan Cain. Talks about the power of introverts in a loud world. And I don't think I'm calling out Erik by saying that he's an introvert, but he can be really soft-spoken sometimes, but what he says carries a ton of weight.
Yeah, it's what I like most about Erik. Erik's also my Sandler sales trainer. So I have a lot of history having one-on-one sessions with Erik and being sold by Erik. But Erik is the best salesman that I know, and probably that most people know or will ever meet. But I find it so interesting because when you think of a stereotypical salesperson, you think like Wolf of Wall Street, like day trader on the New York Stock Exchange floor. Yeah, or like Steve Jobs, like on a stage, like pumping his chest, like talking about tech advancements. And Erik is like the complete opposite of both of those stereotypes. Just a really good listener. He's great at asking questions and like getting to the root of the pain or what the problems are behind what you're trying to solve for. And so it's awesome having him on the other side of the podcast because you don't get to hear him talk a lot.
No, he is usually the one asking questions, not the one speaking. So it was fun.
Yeah, it's a great episode.
Yeah. So without further ado, enjoy our conversation with Erik Meier. That's right. It's amped up. It's amped up for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, only the best for our guests.
Let's roll.
Only the best for you, Erik Meier.
What do we got?
Well, Erik Meier, welcome to the Enthusiastic Life Podcast.
Thanks, Brandon.
So excited that you're here.
Super pumped to be here. Thank you.
Do you mind introducing yourself to our audience?
Never. What would you like me to start with?
Whatever you would like.
Oh, let's see. Middle-aged man, father, husband, dog owner still. She's 18 years old now.
We've talked about your dog.
Yorkie poo.
Yeah, who's getting up there in years.
Yeah.
It's impressive.
I was hanging solar with her this weekend, and she sleeps a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. I scared the crap out of her, actually.
Oh, no.
It was just me and her on Sunday morning. We were watching the hockey game.
Yeah. Oh, when you...
And she was fast asleep in the corner, and they won in overtime. And I jumped up on the couch, and I screamed. And I forgot that she was in the corner, fast asleep. And I don't think I've seen her move that quick in 2 years.
I think scaring an 18-year-old dog is probably ill-advised.
Yeah, I didn't feel good about it. Other than that, business owner, deep thinker,
So profound.
mostly business owner.
And you are also the owner of
The EAM Consulting Group by Sandler Training.
Sandler Training. So, and Sandler is?
Sandler is a international, world-recognized sales and sales management training company. And so people who are familiar with it know it because they probably were running some version of a good business and were maybe some version of a decent seller, but they had some gaps in where they were and where they wanted to be. And they got a little frustrated about those gaps, realized that there was an opportunity to potentially solve and fix them by partnering with a company like ours, and then they got to us. But that's what we do.
Nice.
Yeah, we come alongside organizations that are looking to grow, help them figure out what they need to do that, and then watch them make magic happen.
Nice.
Yeah.
So the first question I always ask our guests is to share their version of what they recall of our origin story of how we met.
Okay. Me and you?
Yeah.
Do you want to tell that one?
No, this is how do you remember us meeting?
Oh, God. Brendan, I'm fighting a head cold here today, too. I got to go in my bank and relive. I mean, that was, 8 years ago?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
8 years ago.
Hard to believe.
Went quick. Who introduced us? That part I should know very quickly, and I'm trying to remember who introduced us.
Tom Nixon.
Really?
Tom Nixon, who was in my Vistage group.
Ah, that's cool.
Yeah.
I love Tom. Tom actually, the first podcast I was ever on was Tom Nixon's podcast.
I was going to say, he also has his own podcast. Yeah.
And that was a long time ago. That was back in 2017 or something.
OG
the legal
podcaster.
one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Apparently lawyers need to sell too, by the way. So Tom wanted me on there for that. So Tom Nixon put us together. And if I remember correctly, you agreed to meet so that you could ask me to train one of your salespeople. And I said, that's a great idea, Brendan. Do you want it to work? And you said, yeah, I want it to work. I said, well, then if we're going to do anything, that means I've got to train you and your salesperson. And you said, okay. And that was it. Because you're a smart guy. Some people are not that smart, Brendan.
Well, it surprised me at first because I had come from a background where they had a very intensive sales program in how you get started and investing you in your first 5 years in the business. So, initially I thought, well, I don't need training but foolishly, good news was I was wrong. I did need it, and it was very helpful. So
thank you.
that is how we met. I remember meeting in your office in Troy for the first
black
time.
chairs.
Yes.
All right, club chairs.
Yeah.
Those club chairs I actually stole from an old office in that building.
No.
Somebody moved out, and then they didn't come back and get them. And so I waited patiently for 6 months and just kept my eye on them. And then one night I was closing up, and I said, you know what? I'm taking them. So I went and I grabbed them. I told the super about it the next day. He's like, it's fine. I was going to throw them out eventually.
Well, at least you were on the up and up about it.
I felt bad. I think I thought about it all night. I was like, did I steal those, or did I
So
just
it's
reuse them?
It's not stealing. They were left behind.
Yeah.
So you're basically being conscientious to the environment, and they weren't thrown away.
I was trying to be a good steward of the world.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we should applaud you for that decision.
Love it.
So tell me about how you got into sales. What got you into that career? How and why did that all happen?
So when I was pretty young, I don't love telling that part of the story because I hear people say, salespeople are born, they're not made, right? And I don't know if that's very true. I think it's often quite the opposite, right? But it's a little bit of nature and nurture maybe that might get you to a position where that becomes a function that you got to do later on in life. But I was drawn to it early on. My dad was a corporate sales guy and a corporate executive sales leader for his career. So, in my house, it was, if you want to learn how to do anything relative to business, you better learn how to sell, Eric. Right. So that was a message that was reinforced pretty early in my youth. Yeah.
Through your dad.
Yeah.
And then what was your first sales job?
My first sales job technically would have been going door to door for Brother Rice selling raffle tickets.
There you go.
Yeah. So I could get days off at the end of the school year. Yep.
That's Come on. So tell me the story. How did
True.
they give you days off for how many raffle tickets you sold?
If you could sell a certain amount, and then there was like a qualifier beyond that, you could buy off days at the end of the school year.
Do they still do this?
I don't know if they still do it or not. I think they do. But I would go door to door. It was, knocking on doors and asking people to buy these raffle tickets. And
So how many days off did you get?
every one you could.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Very competitive.
That's awesome.
Yeah. No, and I thought it was, I just thought that was interesting too, because I never liked doing it, right? There's nothing comfortable about it, but it wasn't like it was so uncomfortable that I wasn't going to do it. And I remember talking to like some of my buddies and they're like, oh, I don't want to go do that. And I'm like, dude, you get school off.
Right.
Like, why wouldn't you just go knock on that door and they'll buy them from you,
Yeah.
Just that you're a kid and you say, hey, you got $20 and then that's it.
There you go.
Yeah.
And then what was your first, I don't know, quote unquote, official?
Official job?
Yeah.
So that one would have been Quicken.
Okay.
Yeah. So back in
Small little company.
small little company, much smaller then, although still not, small would have been getting there in like the 80s or the early 90s. But when I got there, it was maybe 2002, if I remember correctly. And that was my first real sales job. Yeah.
Nice.
It was fun.
And so how do you go from there to Sandler? How do you go from seller to sales training?
Yeah. So I actually had a fun experience there that really molded kind of my mindset and mentality. And it wasn't just, because I figured it out. I had some really good mentors when I was there. People who were good at the craft or understood, what process looked like. And Dan Gilbert's obviously a very, very smart, well-accomplished business person. Seeing how they weren't trying to build, the best mortgage company, right? They were trying to build the best company, and that means best systems, best frameworks, right? They happened to sell mortgages, but that wasn't like what they were trying to do. They were trying to be just an extremely well-run business. And so part of that process meant that they did a lot of training for new hires, and they developed them in their sales process. Their sales process was built around a framework that a guy who was a mentor of mine actually would come in and teach. And so he had a company that was called SureSpeak, which this is kind of fun. It'll age me for a second, or us. We'll do this together,
Sure.
right? So cutting edge technology, they would use video on the internet. And so you would have a computer and you'd record yourself going through the sales process, and then it would be watched later and you get graded on it.
This is early 2000s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Before YouTube, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, he was a mentor of mine. One of the things that I started to do that was a lot of fun is I enjoyed selling. I still enjoy selling. It's probably one of my passions. But I would go down and help with the new hire training waves. So back then, every 30, 60 days, we were bringing 100 plus people into the sales floor. And so they'd go through a couple of months of training. So I would go down there and I'd help out with those onboarding and training regimens, and started to develop a little bit of a passion for coaching, because I like doing that part. I like seeing people understand, how to learn something new when it came to selling and a skill set. And then that really turned into my kind of early passion for what we do now, which is helping companies that don't have that kind of internal resource borrow it or bolt it onto their company without having to build it vertically, which is still really like mind-blowing, Brendan, right?
What's that?
Like at Quicken, when I left there, I thought every company was run that way. Like they brought new people in, they had these like amazing onboarding programs, they had all these systems that they ran and operated through, right? Well, it turns out most businesses actually don't. Most of them don't have anything, especially when it comes to the sales side. Operationally, they might have some stuff, but on the sales side, it's like, oh, you came from the industry? Awesome. So here's a business card, here's a new phone number, go. Or like, hey, welcome to sales. Brendan's pretty good at it. Go hang with him for a while, see if you can pick up some stuff. So it's a bit of a gap between what people are taught versus what they learn. Mm-hmm. And often what they learn isn't necessarily the best thing.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So what were the biggest things that you learned being at Quicken? And then how has that experience changed owning your own business?
Well, it was definitely fun to watch someone who's just an incredible businessman do the stuff that he did. I mean, he went out and bought an NBA team and a couple other bolt-on companies, and I don't know. I mean, I'm not a billionaire, and I'm not trying to be one, but it was eye-opening for someone in their early 20s to go, well, it doesn't seem impossible or like that hard. Started asking a different question, like why not versus why not, right?
Yeah.
So that really changed my perspective on what I was doing there, which I enjoyed. I liked being an employee there. But how that would turn into me saying maybe what I'd want to do instead is run my own thing, right? Give that a shot. So that really helped me kind of build, I think, that muscle.
And so how has your experience been as a business owner? Mm-hmm. And I know, speaking for myself, it can be hard going from a salesperson to being on your own.
Yeah.
And shifting that mindset from salesperson to owner. How is that process for you? And when do you feel, was there a point where you felt like that shift happened, and what was that like?
No.
No?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
No. I'm still a salesperson. It did shift a little bit. Yeah. No, I think it shifted probably around like year 3, when I was into it. So I started the company in 2010. Around year 3, it really started to shift, because at that point I knew how to sell what we delivered to enough clients where I was making a good living and I had, a nice kind of setup, right? But about a year before that, so in year 2, one of my first clients actually, Ken, right? Who had a consulting business, is non-competitive, but I was training him, and he came to me after a class, and he said,
non-competitive to what you were doing.
To what we were doing, yeah. He was helping, he was consulting for like retail environments that they knew how to do inventory ordering and stuff, right? But he was a really good student. He had learned the Sandler process, and so he pulled me aside after a class one day, and he's like, I don't want to do it. I'm doing it anymore. Can I join your company, right? And it's kind of funny. I remember he used the word company. I'm like, I don't have a company, I have a sales job. I pay myself, and then I do some stuff, and I get paid for it. But I don't have a company, right? So I was thinking about it, and I thought, maybe a company would be fun, right? So we brought Ken on, and then we had a company. But maybe it was prescient because we had been the EAM Consulting Group, even though group would imply,
more than one person.
One person, but it was not more than one person. I was the collective we of the Sandler Network was always my thought process there. But so in the second year, it was kind of forced to shift. By the third year, I think it really started shifting to wanting to build a company, right? And not a huge one, but like a well-run small business.
Yeah. But I think that's such an interesting moment where how we see ourselves as business owners versus how other people see us.
Yep.
Right? Where you saw yourself as a salesperson.
Yep.
And Ken saw you working with you as the owner of a company.
Yeah. Yeah. It's still weird. And, I love everyone that I work with, but, I'm reminded now that I need to make sure that I spend time, just interacting and chit-chatting with people. Like I remember, how great it felt to have my RVP at Quicken, acknowledge me for something or take me out to a dinner, just spend some time together. I was like, wow, that's so cool, right? We're just two humans, but the lens that you get viewed through changes over time. You got to be aware of that. Yeah.
So what do you see, having been in this for how
15
long?
years.
15 years?
Yeah.
What do you see some of the biggest mistakes that companies make around their sales programs and individuals make in the sales world?
Yeah. We'll start with with companies maybe. So it's very common, and if I kind of like broke it down real quick, like let's say small businesses, right? So I think a lot of small business owners would agree with me that they learn over time that they struggle from what would be called a non-transferable skill set. So they're forced to figure out how to sell something. Otherwise, their dream of that business will die as their cash flow comes to a grinding halt and they run out of money, right? I don't think most businesses actually don't work out because people don't have interesting stuff. I've watched most businesses fail because people just don't pay enough attention to getting new business or selling, right? So they struggle with this non-transferable skill set. And when they think about how they want to scale the sales side of their business, because they have this non-transferable skill set, they can't really give the best practices appropriately to people that they're hiring and bringing in. So some people work, but a lot of people don't. It's very expensive. And eventually they just, they kind of find themselves beating their head against the wall trying to figure out why it's not going like they want it to. And they may even say things like this quietly at the end of the night: why can't they just do it like me? Right? So if you've ever said that as a small business owner, don't worry, you're not alone. But that's where we probably help the most, is the process that we have. It was really designed to solve that non-transferable skill set. It's very often, not always, but very often conceptually right in line with what that owner has learned to do themselves and just didn't know how to call it certain things so it can be taught to others.
Right.
So then we can come in and we can do that.
Kind of like when Wayne Gretzky tried to coach hockey, and he would tell his team, well, just do it like this. Yeah. And they're like, no one can do that like that.
Yeah.
That's why you are the great one.
It's different.
Yeah.
Right? And, that's, I think that's always like one of the interesting things with selling too, is David Sandler used to always joke about this, right? Because there's a lot of different sales methodologies, and all of them have their own, goods and bads, whatever. But some of the people that are most recognized as sales trainers, right, are really just very good at personal marketing and branding.
Interesting. Tell me more about that.
Well, you take if someone even thought of Tony Robbins as a sales trainer in some degree, right? Well, if you want to be Tony Robbins, you also have to be 7 feet tall, with that kind of physical presence and like a giant of a human, and jumping on a trampoline for, like, it's not a transferable skill set. Like, you're not going to replicate that person, right? You could watch him and mirror him as much as you want, but unless you're that person, it's just not going to work, right? And he's a good guy, and I'll give him that. But the systems mean that it can be a system. It's a process. You can plug anything into a system and a process, and as long as they follow the system and the process, then they get a repeatable output, right? There's always this like version and selling of art and science, but I don't think it's nearly as much art as it is science until it becomes enough science where people can learn how to make an art of it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. I love how you said that.
Yeah. Thanks, Brendan.
I wish I could repeat it properly, but
I don't even remember what I just said. This is the best part about this.
So, one of the things that I've always been impressed with is how you've continued to grow the business. You add people to the team. I think you think very strategically about the business. What are some things that you've learned as a business owner over the last 15 years, going from yourself to adding Ken to growing that team? What are some things that you've learned from that?
There's a lot I don't know. Very familiar with the Peter principle.
Yes, but please explain and expand for our audience.
The version I've always heard of that is if you keep showing up often enough, eventually you'll just get promoted to the level of your incompetence.
Okay.
Right. So I butt up against that pretty frequently. I have no idea what to do here. I've either got to figure it out or I've got to hire someone else to do it that knows how to do it or wants to learn how to do it. So one of the greatest lessons was, don't try to figure most of that stuff out. Just realize it's not your strength, and maybe your strength is finding people that would, be able to have a strength that fits there and bring them in and let them do it, right? Yeah. Gives them joy and allows us to continue to grow and get better. So that was definitely something to learn. I'll take the systems and process conversation and bring it back to actually just running the business. There was a time that we were scaling chaos because our sales system is good, and that sounds self-serving, but it's also true. Like, we get the benefit. I'll back up for a second. Many businesses struggle to operationalize the sales side of their organization. Especially around here, if I just pick the greater Metro Detroit area, a lot of smart people, technical backgrounds. They built stuff, they patented stuff, they manufacture stuff. And so they've got this very technical mindset. So they understand the ops side maybe a little bit more, right? But the selling side never really got operationalized. We had the opposite side of that problem, right? I was pretty good at operationalizing the selling side, but we scaled to a level of chaos because the operations side became pretty obviously full of some cracks at a couple of points. And I even, I remember going a little off of script, trying to figure out how to make that work by changing what we were doing and how we were doing it. But really, that was a distraction. What we needed to learn how to do was just fix our operational side of the business. So that was a big one. Yeah.
I wrote scaling chaos. That's really interesting. Where if you don't have processes and procedures in place, then you're just scaling chaos.
Yeah. And then you get more money.
And then you just have bigger chaos.
Yeah, you get bigger chaos that comes with it, right? Revenue goes up, profits don't ever seem to, margins getting thinner, all that kind of fun stuff, and you're just scratching your head going, well, we did better this year than last year, but it doesn't feel like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. So looking back, so you've had EAM Consulting and Sales Training with Sandler for 15 years, and you were with Quicken before that. So and you were selling at Brother Rice before then.
Yep.
What is something, if you think back to early Erik Meier,
Yep.
getting into sales, what is something that you wish you knew then that you know now that you tell yourself?
The competition is not what you think it is. And I'll put some context on that.
Okay.
So I actually personally, even though I did well in that sales role that I had at Quicken and the early sales success that I was able to have with the Sandler business and even on the door-to-door stuff, right? But it took me a long time. I don't think I figured this out until my mid-30s, that selling wasn't about winning that conversation. So I had a really misaligned belief system that said that if I was good at this thing, then I would win the conversation with the person I was with. So, what that did sometimes is probably made it a little uncomfortable, right? Also made it kind of difficult to be fallible and put myself out there because sometimes I didn't know if I was going to win or not. So I would justify in my head that I just wouldn't go after it because I didn't want to see that as a loss. And then, somewhere in that journey, finally connected the dots, and it's a Sandler principle, but it finally made sense to me that it's not about winning there. It's about doing, right? Success is actually doing what you said you were going to do. It's got nothing to do with the outcome. Outcomes matter, but that's not really what matters. Yeah.
Very cool. That would help out a lot of us in our younger years.
Yeah. I mean, I had a huge issue with that. Literally, there was actually a time, I'll tell you this story. This is kind of fun. So when I left Quicken, I actually thought that I had had enough of sales. Yeah.
Okay. You were done.
I was done with sales. I was like, you know what? I don't know. A couple of people that I used to work with had left, and they went and got these jobs in the ops side of the world. They're like, oh yeah, you get a couple of weeks of vacation every year, and it's really 9 to 5, and at 5 o'clock everyone just goes home, and we do an hour lunch every day, right? And after 6 years or whatever it was at Quicken at the time, I'm like, that doesn't sound that bad actually, right? Maybe
that doesn't sound terrible.
Yeah, and I'm like, well, how much are you getting paid? And they're like, I don't know, 50, 60 grand, but it's predictable. And I'm like, I can figure out how to budget, I suppose, right? I can peel back and just work on my expenses and get some spreadsheets, and so I seriously considered doing that. Now, this is not a knock on anyone that's got an ops job, right? I know both sides make the world work, but I was burnt out.
Yeah.
Selling had become not fun so much, and I went and actually interviewed for a couple of ops roles. And I remember walking into a place that I will leave nameless because it wasn't their fault, but man, I walked in there, Brendan, and I sat down with the person who was there to interview me. And they started telling me a little bit about what it would look like. And I remember just thinking to myself, no way in hell am I ever going to do this, right? And I got up and I left, and I remember I got back in my car, and I'm like, you dummy, you gotta get back on track here. This is not where you're supposed to be.
Yeah.
And then, self-serving, but part of the story, I suppose, from a Sandler perspective, that really got me reinvigorated in selling because it had kind of moved back to that competition thing. It had moved back into trying to get people to do business with me, right? And And when I really understood the Sandler framework, it was more about, well, let's get to the truth, right? And if the truth is we shouldn't do something together, then that's fine, right? If the truth is we should, then we should create an appropriate framework in the conversation to be able to get there comfortably, right?
Yeah.
But that made it more fun again, right? And now I have a blast doing it.
And life's too short to not have fun.
Yeah, right?
So something that you just mentioned there made me think of a question I hadn't thought of until now, which is, one of the Sandler principles is get to know.
Yep.
I'm curious, in all of your years, what's the best no you've ever gotten?
Oh, man.
Like, what's something where it's like, that was epic?
Yeah. Do you want the Erik learning his craft no, where he made a mistake?
I want whichever one. I don't know. Whatever you think is like. Yes, give me all the. If you've got a couple really.
Oh, I got a ton of them.
Yeah.
And I think
Give me like maybe your top 2 or 3.
Yeah, and this is the fun part. This is a great question, by the way, Brendan. Because we don't get to work with clients unless we bring clients on board, and we don't bring clients on board unless we start a sales conversation and navigate it appropriately. Not that selling anything else isn't tough, but when you sell sales training, everyone's paying attention to everything that you do all the time.
Their antennas up.
Yeah, right. So we got to be on our A game. We got to show them something or demonstrate something that they want to see in their team, or they wouldn't hire us, and I wouldn't expect them to, right? But I will always remember this no. So I was busy doing my cookbook, right? My prospecting plan, somewhere in between year 1 and year 2, right? Where I was far from killing it, right? And I was busy making a call one day, and the person on the other side heard my 30-second commercial, stopped me and said, whoa. Are you telling me that you own a sales training company, right? And I was like, yes. And he said, this is the worst conversation I've ever had in my life. He said, if I were you, right, I'd think very seriously about, a different future. And I'll make it my journey and my mission to tell as many people as I can remember to how bad you are. And then he hung up on me, right?
Okay.
I was terrified.
Yeah.
I thought for sure he was taking a billboard out.
Right.
There's going to be like, news.
Do you know this man?
Yeah. And I thought about that I'm still thinking about it today. That one sits in the back of my brain.
Create some solid head trash.
I don't think I did any selling behaviors the rest of that week. Right?
At all?
No, I was terrified.
Yeah.
Yeah, just totally
My career's
paralyzed.
over.
Yep.
Based on this one person that I called.
Yep. I literally, I remember I went to a networking event like the week after, and I'm like, someone's going to come up to me and go, oh, you're that shitty salesperson, right?
That's a good one.
Didn't happen, though.
No.
Yeah. And to this day, I don't remember his name, and I'm sure he doesn't remember that conversation with me, but that was a hard no to take.
And probably just caught somebody at the wrong time.
Yeah, that's always the case. Most of the time people are mean if you're prospecting too, by the way. And this is one of the cool things to learn. They either don't have the authority to buy whatever you sell, or they don't have enough money to afford it, and they know that. So it's just easier for them to be kind of mean to that salesperson so they don't have to acknowledge that out loud.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, and then honest question: if anyone knows the Sandler process, one of the things is to always be asking questions,
yes.
right? To be inquisitive, be curious. How hard is it doing interviews like this, where you're being asked questions and you can't reply with questions?
I hate talking about myself. It's very difficult. It's the hardest thing I've done all day.
Well, I appreciate you stepping outside your comfort zone. So the last question that I always like to ask people, our guests on the podcast, is, Erik, what is something that is bringing you joy right now?
Being here with you, Brendan.
Aw.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of people who do the things they say they're going to do, right? It's easy to talk about stuff. A lot of people don't actually follow through on that stuff, right? You follow through on stuff. I remember we were talking about you setting up this whole podcast and you put it in your cookbook, and now here you've got a bunch of episodes and you've had a lot of great conversations with people, and you're a guy that does what he says he's going to do.
Well, thanks, Erik.
Makes me happy to be here with you.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Anything else in your world that's particularly fun and exciting outside of, dance competitions?
Well, dance competitions are a lot of fun, Brendan. Lots of fun. I very much enjoy being a dance dad. These girls are something else. I'll tell you what.
And remind me how old your daughters are now.
11 and 14.
Okay.
Right.
Both highly competitive dancers.
Highly competitive dancers, very good at what they do.
How often are they at dance competitions?
This year, what are we almost done with February?
Yes.
They've had 4 of them already.
Okay.
Yeah.
And in any given year, how many competitions will they attend?
I don't even know. It could be like 20 when it's all said and done.
Okay.
Yeah, out of state, multi-state, national ones. Yeah, but they have fun doing it. They've got a really, really cool studio, a lot of good, young women around them that are their friends that they've created great memories with over the years. So they have a blast. I mean, when they get to go out and do these things now, as much as they enjoy the dance component, they also love just getting to hang out and enjoy a cool weekend somewhere else. Right?
Yeah.
And thankfully, my wife is an absolute saint, and she does most of the traveling, especially when it's out of state with them. And
Shout out Anna Meier.
shout out Anna, right? Rock star. But it's just fun to watch them. I have never been very good at dancing, if you could believe that.
I don't know how to reply to that because I could see it go either way. I could see you being a very good dancer, but I could also see you just, doing the side to side shuffle.
I'm not a very good dancer, Brendan. But
We're getting to the deep topics in this podcast.
But the two of them are, right? And they memorize like all of these different dances. I think each one of them right now has got like 12 different dances that they have, and they each have their own solo.
What's their favorite style of dance?
So they're a little different.
Okay.
Right? So Ava, my oldest, is very much like what's the word I'm looking for there? It's like the new agey kind of stuff.
Like jazz contemporary?
Like contemporary, yeah. The song's got like rhythm beats and like, jungle brush in the background.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
It's kind of like, these movements and stuff.
Yeah.
And it's very cool. And then her little sister Valentina is typically more of like into the, pop side of it. Maybe would be a good way to describe it, right? Like a little more like commercial from that perspective.
Like a hip hop style kind of dance?
She's big on tap, oddly
Oh,
enough.
nice.
Last couple of years she had tap solos, but she rocks tap solos. But yeah, they both love different aspects of it, which is fun to see. And, more than anything, back to the comment I made about you earlier, they care about it, right? And they put a lot of effort into it. We've never said like, you got to do it. You have to show up, right? It's always, do you want to do this? If you don't want to do it, like, let us know. By the way, for any parents out there who are thinking about encouraging their kids to get into competitive dance, it takes up a lot of time, and it is not the most inexpensive thing to do. So,
but they're not riding horses.
well, there's that too, right? So you got to pick your battles. But if they ever wanted to not do it, my wife and I wouldn't force them to, right?
Yeah.
They love doing it. Actually, I remember when, I don't remember how old they were exactly, but there was a night that we were hanging out on the back patio, and they were still pretty young, right? They were probably like 4 and 6 or something. But they had a cell phone up, and they were recording themselves, like doing their little moves and stuff, right? I thought, well, that's cool. What are you guys doing? So we're practicing, right? So I knew then I was going to be in for a journey.
Because like you would record yourself practicing sales, they were recording themselves practicing dance.
Yeah.
Because they want to get better.
Well, not sales. Back then it was aggressive inline roller skating. True story.
No.
There's old VHS footage of me somewhere where I would literally set this tripod up on the driveway, and I built these rails. I had like a whole set, right? Different ones, kinks and stuff, right?
Yeah.
And I would just put that tripod up, and I'd go and I'd work on my moves, And
that's
like
amazing.
hours.
Do these videos still exist?
Somewhere. They're floating around somewhere. And then I'd go inside, pop it in, and I'd just watch it and go, I got to bend down a little further there, and like that one didn't look as smooth.
We've got to get our hands on those videos. That would be awesome. Well, Erik, thank you so much for being on the podcast. Just really appreciate you being here on the conversation.
Yeah, 100%. Thanks, Brennan.
thank you so much to Erik Meier for joining us on the Enthusiastic Life podcast. Hope you enjoyed that conversation. If you'd like to learn more about Erik or the Sandler Training Group at EAM, you can find them online. You can find them on LinkedIn. And if you enjoyed the episode, please give us a like, a share, a comment. Share this with your text thread. Let folks know a little bit more about the Enthusiastic Life. We'd love to get the word out and spread some positivity in the world. So thank you all for joining us. We really appreciate our community, and have a wonderful day.